Holy cow, the level of deep, unbelievably heavy exhaustion that I feel this Friday night when I'm filming. There aren't enough adjectives in the entire known universe to describe how heavy it feels on me. Like my eyes are ready to close. I should probably be in bed, but I'm waiting for our daughter to get home so I can have her dinner ready and she can be greeted by a warm smile. I don't know where to start today's vlog, but I got a lot to talk with you all about. Let me start with the gratitude. Let us be grateful. The frogs have started to do their little song. So if you're new to my channel, there's a little bit of a wooded area behind my house and a kind of like a creek that flows through the woods. And when it starts to warm up in the spring, you can hear the frogs croaking and singing, and it's super duper magical. And for me, it reminds me of being a little kid traveling to the island of Puerto Rico, where my parents' family is from, both of their sides. And there's a little frog on the island called the coqui, and it's teeny tiny. It's probably like the size of my thumbnail at the most. And the reason that it's called the coqui is because that's the sound that it makes. And if you've been to Puerto Rico, you hear it everywhere, even in the city. And it sounds like this. Coqui, coqui. Okay, higher pitch. Let me try that again. Coqui. Coqui, coqui. I can't even do it because my throat is still recovering. But just imagine a super duper high pitch. Coqui, coqui. It's that kind of noise. And it's like if you're in the wooded or rural areas, I have my pen because I was writing notes about things that I want to talk with you all about. If you're in the wooded or rural areas of Puerto Rico, it's like a cacophony of frog noises all night. So anyway, gratitude number one. The frogs are starting to sing in our backyard, and it is the most calming, zen-like sound in all the universe. The only thing that makes me happier than that sound is I remember this clearly. You have a baby that's about, I want to say between maybe the 3 and 4 month range, and they figure out how to giggle. The cackling giggle that they have at everything you do, every face you make or whatever, that's the only sound like more joyful and calming to me than the sound of the frogs in the backyard. Number two, I'm grateful to have a job that pays me well. And I want to talk with you all about that job in just a minute here. But number three, I'm grateful that I also have other options so that I am not dependent on my job. So let's get into that a little bit. And then I want to have some other, frivolous, chatty conversation with you. So part of the reason that this week was so hellacious, and I want to be careful about what I say because, I don't want to break any confidentiality, or if anybody should ever come across this video that I work with, that they feel uncomfortable by what I have said. So I'm going to keep it really simple and not get into the details of what led to this and why this happened and all of that. The organization that I work for had a significant workforce reduction that happened this week. To say that that was terrible is an understatement. We didn't know who was going to be let go and the reasons why. Those are confidential. HR, human resources reasons. I respect that. Look, I've been in the workforce long enough, and I've been at enough places of employment. I've also been in some HR types of functions. I've been a director of a group. I've led organizations. I understand how decisions work and that not everyone knows what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and why it's going to happen. And there are some things that you just can't share with everyone. I get that. But what I'm getting at is that in this particular instance, we knew that there were going to be reductions, and we didn't have a clear sense of like how they were going to happen, when they were going to happen, and what the criteria were going to be by which people were selected to be laid off. So I won't get into numbers and all of that, but we lost a lot of good people this week. People that I adore, that I've worked closely with, that have been good colleagues or good humans, and they were let go by no fault of their own. They did nothing wrong. Many of these people had outstanding performance, and we needed to reduce the workforce because the numbers weren't working out to keep everyone. I'll just leave it at that without getting into the background. I've been in a position to have to help do a lot of triaging with the sort of chaos that was left behind when people leave their roles, they leave projects and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of sort of reshuffling and things like that have to happen. So long story short, it's been really long hours this week. Long hours. I hope I don't get emotional during this call because it has been emotionally hell, just a hell week. Dealing with the people that left and struggling through the emotions of like the abrupt departure. And also trying to be comforting to the people that remained because, it's just a lot of sort of emotions. It's just heavily emotional. I'll leave it at that. So I've gotten up early in the mornings. I have, gotten to my desk earlier than usual and worked long hours, long past, dinner time and whatever. And so that is where my exhaustion is coming from, not just the work itself, but like all of the emotions that you go through, and it's like you go through all of the stages of grief in some ways because you grieve the loss of your colleagues. You start with this sort of like shock and denial, like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that fill in the blank person was let go. How can that be? All of those sorts of things. And then, you move through that to like rage, pointing fingers, blaming, and all that crazy stuff, And then you start to move into like the bargaining stage. I never went through the bargaining stage, but then acceptance, all that sort of stuff. So I think, everybody's going through all those stages. And so it's that on top of the like stress of the chaos that was left to figure out. That said, it is my sincere belief that everyone did everything they could to do this as like judiciously, humanely as possible and all of that. Okay, so I want to say not much more about that except to say, wow, it's been a week. I haven't been able to record videos this week. I wanted to do a few like at night, and it's just like by the time I shut my computer down, all I want to do is get in a robe, like what I have on, have a little glass of wine. I just had like a couple of ounces. I have a couple ounces left here. Check this out. My friends put this together for us. The Real Housewives of Richmond. There's no Real Housewives of Richmond, but we joke around about like becoming the franchise. How fun would that be? I think I would be a hot mess on a housewife show. What would I be like in those confessionals? That would be interesting. But anyway, so I'm grateful to have a job, which is grateful point number 2. And then what happened also just made me realize, and this has nothing to do with where I work and the ethics there or whatever, because I love where I work. I love my coworkers. I love the people that departed, all of that. But I had this moment where I was angry with myself when I knew that there were going to be layoffs because I don't even know how to describe this. It's like that moment where you realize that you're dependent on someone else to decide your worth and value. I mean, thankfully, my worth and value was okay this round. Maybe there'll be additional layoffs. I don't know how that'll go. But like that understanding that your professional fate in that moment is not in your own hands, 1. And 2, the salary part of it. I enjoy my salary. It affords me a generous lifestyle, a comfortable lifestyle. And I'm super like grateful for that in the most humble of ways. At the same time, I was just like grateful that I have other options too. So if I was among the people laid off, I had a plan B. Not everyone did, and that breaks my heart. So I don't want to say much more about that because I feel like I'll be going into territory that I probably have very little business talking about in a public video. So it's been a rough week. Insert all of the expletives because they've been said this week, okay? Let's talk about more fun stuff now. I wanted to give y'all an update on the show The Leftovers. Do you remember me talking about this in a previous video? And then I said there were like some maybe grossly gratuitous, obscene scenes where there was like too revealing of like sexual scenes and things like that. Too revealing of violent scenes where there was nothing intimated. It was just really like, gross and blunt and in your face. Well, I want to eat my words about the show because I said I didn't want to watch the show anymore, but I was going to try it out a little bit more. Well, we have loved the show. There were 3 seasons. My husband and I watched it, and it's really well done. I still stand behind some of the scenes are a bit graphic, but as the show continued, the graphic scenes diminished. I think it was just like those first few episodes that were really pretty shocking. The other episodes were not so bad in all of the seasons. And I want to say that it is like an incredibly well done series. Super duper complex, the way the storylines are woven together. And it's the kind of thing I had mentioned with the show From, From, that I went back and rewatched all of the seasons of it after I had finished the seasons because I wanted to see the things that I missed along the way. I actually want to rewatch The Leftovers now. It was that good that I want to start back from episode 1, season 1, with everything that I know about how the whole thing goes and kind of reprocess everything that I'm seeing. So if you have a stomach for just some scenes that are a little much, try that show out. I wanted to say that after that, I started to watch the show Lost. Lost. I forget the gentleman's name. It's Harold, I think, and then some French last name, Perrineau or something like that. He is the lead actor in From, and he is not a lead in Lost, but he's a key actor in Lost, and he has like his son there with him. If you're not familiar with Lost, a plane crashes on its way to Los Angeles on some remote island in the South Pacific somewhere, I believe. I think they're coming from either Australia or New Zealand. That part doesn't matter. But the whole set of passengers are marooned on this island, this deserted island in the middle of nowhere. And as they get their senses about them and start to regroup from the crash, they realize that there are some interesting forces on the island. And I'll just leave it at that. And it's super interesting. It's not as interesting as The Leftovers, but I'm enjoying rewatching that because I think I watched like some episodes of one of the seasons long ago and it just didn't capture my attention. So that's what I wanted to say about TV. And have you heard that Stranger Things is finally, there's a timeline for it. I think it's the end of summer of this year that we should see that. And so, y'all, I can't wait for season 5 of Stranger Things to come on. I also wanted to share some thoughts about palettes. So I mentioned the Natasha Denona Bloom palette. I'm not going to get it, at least now. I had a moment where I added it to cart and then I was like, you know what? Let me be honest. I have many shadows that look just like this palette. And here's the thing. Sometimes when a new palette comes out, an eyeshadow palette, we will say to ourselves, oh, you can, kind of dupe this with other colors from other palettes from other brands. Then you'll have influencers showing, oh, this color looks like the color over here in ColourPop, or, this color over here looks like something in this Anastasia palette. I don't know if it's Anastasia or Anastasia. I keep saying Anastasia, but anyway. So the Bloom palette, I pumped my brakes and then I pulled out another Natasha Denona. Actually, remember there was a video where I sort of shuffled around all of the Natasha Denona eyeshadows. One of the palettes where I reshuffled shadows, I pulled that out and I said to myself, you know what? I have just about every color in an actual Natasha Denona formula in this palette. I mean, really, really close where the differences would be really subtle. And the reason that I bring up that whole thing about like influencers saying this color is similar to that one, they usually point to completely different formulas. Like they might look at 2 pink mattes, this matte from this palette and this matte from this Too Faced palette. They're both pink in the same tones. Yeah, but this over here might be an inferior formula. So that's not really a good comparison because it's not just about the color and the tone. It's also about how the thing applies, how it stays on. Is it a creamy formula, a dry formula? Is it powdery? Is it thick? Those kinds of things are really important. It's not just about the color. I know that sounds really shallow, but I think about these things often and sometimes all day. Can you believe that? So long story short, I have the Bloom palette close enough in Natasha Denona formulas. So I'm happy with that. That doesn't mean I might never get the palette. Is that grammatically correct? I might never get. That doesn't mean I wouldn't consider getting the Bloom palette at some point in the future, but for today, that ain't going in the cart. I also wanted to mention the Betty palette. Betty, Betty. I have a cousin named Betty. This is a Lisa Eldridge palette named after her cat, Betty. And the colors in the palette are supposed to reflect the colors in like the fur of the cat. And the names reflect the cat, like cat things too. Like there's a color called Talk to the Paw. Talk to the Paw. This palette, I went so far as to add to cart and added some additional single shadows, and I'm going to explain why. And I was very close to ordering it, and then I snapped out of it. So this palette has 2 purpley shades, like a light lavender and a more, almost like a royal purple, but still like sheared out. I have plenty of purples. Those look very nice. I will give it that. Like when you see the swatches and the application, I don't know that I have purples that are beautiful and creamy like that and reflective like that. So I will say that. But what really interested me about the palette was less the purples and more the other beautiful colors. I'm very, very interested in this palette. Because the purples are of less interest, I think I would wear those a lot less. Not that I never would. I actually wanted to replace those with maybe some more neutrally types of shadows, easygoing shadows. So Lisa Eldridge sells single pan shadows from all of her previous palettes. Like she, you know what I mean? Like she If it has 6 shadows in one palette, she sells the 6 as singles too. So I had added some shadows to the cart to replace the purples. And then had this moment of like, what the hell are you doing, Veronica? Really? Like, is it that serious? Because the colors that are in the palette that you like there's like a taupey color and maybe like a smoky darker color or something like that. I probably have very, very similar formulas. I mean, the Lisa Eldridge formulas are really, really good. They're very different than anything else. But maybe some similar-ish formulas. Did I really need that additional one? I mean, makeup is never about need for me. It's always about, do I want this thing? Is it interesting and attractive enough that I'm going to like it and enjoy it? But I pumped the brakes on the Betty palette too. That one I'm more inclined to impulse purchase than the Bloom palette. So you may see Betty in my collection soon. Don't quote me on me saying I'm not adding it to cart because I may. And then there's the new Pat McGrath palette. I'm not interested in this. Like I said before, I'm moving away from Pat McGrath palettes only because I'm less inclined to use those super fancy shadows. They are gorgeous. Gorgeous. I mean, this is a beautiful palette. But I know myself, and I know that I will be less likely to use the green shades, the deep plummy shades, and that kind of thing. And I'm okay without it. But it is pretty. And if I were still collecting I'm in a recliner. Like we have a couch here, and the 2 sides of the couch recline. So if you hear noise, it's the leather like underneath me moving around. I promise I'm not farting on film. That ain't happening. I don't really fart very much. Do you? So I don't know why, but there are some people that are like prone to farting. They're inclined to fart. Maybe they have weird digestive systems or something. Do you fart a lot? Is that okay to talk about in a video? I don't know if it is or if it's like déclassé. I do know that it is very déclassé, so I apologize. But I don't fart very much at all. I don't know why. Well, I will say, if we really want to get into it, I feel like I'm at a weird angle. So if there's like weird things happening with my chin and stuff, I'm sorry and thanks for bearing with me. My hair, have I had this little piece of dandruff in my hair the whole time? What is that and where did it come from? So embarrassing. Oh my gosh. What the heck was I going to tell y'all? I'm taking a probiotic for women. It doesn't really matter if it's for women or men. So, I mean, that's just a marketing thing. So I'm taking a probiotic and I've been taking it for about a year now, one every day. And it has really like settled my gut. That's another topic for another day. Okay. I also wanted to chat about what I call the one in, one out approach. Part of the thing with these palettes, actually, who am I kidding? I don't apply this to the palettes. I really just apply it to the fragrances. If I bring a fragrance in, something has got to go out because I only have so much room. I actually have more room for palettes. So I guess I just want to say about the one in, one out thing. I certainly haven't applied it to lipsticks either because y'all, I have lipstick cases and I keep buying more lipsticks and just placing them on top. It's like a heap of lipsticks. Send help. Send help. Anyway, I was going to say I'm proud of the one in, one out, but I need to kind of like retract that statement because it does not apply to eyeshadow palettes. So let's just move on. The Sephora sale is coming up. I will be shopping the sale. And I think the bronzers are all that's on my immediate list. I'm sure I'll find 10 other things to add to cart. I do want to re-up on skincare. Y'all, look at this. I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but this is the kind of day that I had today. I'm greasy. Ooh, Lord, I'm greasy. Well, I guess you can't see it on camera, but I can tell. There is bronzer right here, like all through this section and down through here. Oh my gosh, I'm just realizing my concealer is like nearly olive tone green. Or maybe it's just this light. But anyway, all of this is like bronzy. And because I was sitting like this a lot today, I think I rubbed off a lot of the foundation. And I probably did this a lot today. And so the foundation is rubbed off of here. I probably should go to bed. But let me finish this video. Are you buying anything in the Sephora sale? Oh, I wanted to share fragrances in the Sephora sale. I bought a travel spray of Fleur Royale from Kayali. Is that what it's called? In the beautiful new purple pink ombre effect bottle. It's a nice fragrance. It's like a rose, little slight fruitiness, but mostly a rose fragrance. Not a unique scent profile, but I like it a lot. And I like the bottle. So that might be coming home to me. If you want to know my thoughts on other Sephora fragrances, I will definitely be posting like a Sephora recommendations video. The sale is in early April. And I love it. I love it. Yes, I know that you can get things cheaper in other sales. I get it. You can get 30, 40, 50% off on other sites. Go do that if you want to do that. As for me and my dollars and my time and my energy, I like to fill the Sephora cart and just be done with it. You know, like take it to checkout. I'm gonna put on my skincare in there, like my Ulla Henriksen moisturizer with the peptide, the boosting peptides, whatever the heck it is, in the like bluish purpley bottle. Love that stuff. I might get some more Paula's Choice. I might re-up on Good Genes from Sunday Riley and things like that I use for my skincare and that I love and that I trust. Oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. All right, so that's the Sephora sale. And then I also wanted to say thank you for those of you that have watched and interacted with the little shorts that I'm posting. I don't know where that came. I do know where that came from. I was going to say, I don't know where it came from. I know exactly where it came from. You know how when you go through shifts in life, like the layoffs, I knew they were on the horizon. I just didn't know when or what the criteria were going to be or whatever. And it makes you realize things, you know? It makes you realize things. So when I get to points where there's change or something happening major in my life, I get reflective. So that's where the shorts have come from. Thank you for watching them. My goal was to do about 30 days of those. I think am I on week 2? Yes, I'm on week 2, and I will continue to try to do those as long as I can for about 30 days. But one of the epiphanies that I had, the realizations that I have with everything happening is that I'm entering my I don't care era. There's something about everything that happened recently that made me feel like it's time to just stop worrying about what everyone else thinks and how other people value or don't value me. And here's the thing, friends, I didn't even realize that I was worried about that until this thing happened. And then I was like, oh, maybe I am worried about it and pretend I'm not. Why do I care whether other people value me or not? Mind you, this has nothing to do with the gratitude I have for still being employed and for somebody thinking I was worthy to keep for reasons that have not been revealed to me. I don't know. But I think the point I'm making is there's this Tori Amos song. Do you know Tori Amos? Tori, first name, Amos. I listened to her album on repeat in the late 90s, probably 97-ish. Probably from 97 to early 2000s, and I still listen to that CD, not in CD form. I have it on Spotify now. Everything's digital now. So in the song, it's called White Horses. And I think that's just like a metaphor for the angels coming to get her dad. I hope I'm like interpreting the song right. Maybe it's about something completely different. And in the song, her father's singing to her. She's a little girl. And I know that because she talks about wearing mittens and going out to play in the snow, like as a little kid. And so her father's dying, and he says to her, and this line has stuck with me for, I hope I don't get emotional on y'all, 28 years. 28 years. When are you going to make up your mind? I'm going to get emotional. When are you going to love you as much as I do? It's almost like in his death, he wants to leave his daughter with self-confidence because she's going to have to take care of herself in his absence. And so here we go, the waterworks. It made me just think about at what point in your life do you just decide that you're worth it and that you love yourself enough not to be worried about what other people think of you. I've always been a confident person, and at the same time, two things can be true at once. I have had great self-confidence and also suffered greatly from imposter syndrome, as I've mentioned in other videos. I feel like I finally kicked imposter syndrome last fall, when we won a big contract that I led the proposal for. I feel like that was a pivotal moment where I abandoned my imposter syndrome nonsense, because it is nonsense. It's just voices in your head. That's really all it is. And when you think about voices in your head, they don't exist anywhere. Like, show me the voice in your head. Point to it. It does not exist in the known world. It's just this energy running through your mind, energy misplaced. So anyway, in the recent events, there was something about waiting to know who was going to be laid off where I had to make up my mind that no matter what happened, I valued me. I know I bring my best self to work every day. I have human moments just like everybody does, but I bring my best self. I have experience. I've done great work. I'm doing great work. And it's okay. And I don't need to be worried about what anybody else thinks about the work that I do. I mean, to some extent, right? You work with your colleagues, and so it's important for them to value your work and find you collaborative and all of the things. But the point I'm making is that first you make up your own mind about how you feel about the work that you're doing, how you show up in the world, how you treat others, all of that, and stand strong in that. So it was another sort of pivotal moment for me thinking about my own value and that I need to be clear on my own self-worth, no matter what the layoff decision was and whether it included me or not. And I love that for me. I love that for me. It was like this epiphany. So I'm moving into my I don't care era. That doesn't mean I don't care about my performance. I'm not going to give my all. None of that. Of course I am. I can't not do that. But I am not caring whether others notice the value of that or not. Thankfully, in this case, whatever I did was noticed or something. I don't know how decisions were made. But here I am. Here I am. Rocking like a hurricane. I have some things that I want to do, some goals that I've set for myself. They're not work related. I have my own different goals for work. And with those goals, I'm going to slowly proceed toward them and not care what anyone thinks about what I'm doing and whether they think it's a good idea, whether they would advise me different. It's time for me to do whatever the hell I want. I've spent a lot of time doing what other people want, making sure other people were happy and satisfied and proud of me. All of that they saw my value. I spent a lot of time convincing other people that I was worthy of a seat at the table. It's kind of time to build my own table. Two things can be true at once here as well. I can give my all to my job because they deserve it and they're wonderful humans and we do amazing work. And I can build my own table. I've already started to do that. You know, like I have all of the lumber, the legs. I just need to put that together and make it sturdy. I don't know what that will look like yet or what the result will be, but it will be something and it will be mine. I wish for you too, the confidence to not care. And as I always say, that doesn't mean you have the right to be mean, rude, unkind to anyone, none of that. I'm talking about when you are not affecting anyone else except yourself, you can do what you want. That's my belief. I think I'll pause there because there's a lot more to say. Check out The Leftovers. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on it. And I think that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate you.